here we are. TGIM, am I right? Rolling along here on this Monday into the week, May 1st. May 1st, which means the last Syracuse lacrosse game happened not in May. There will be no lacrosse, men's lacrosse. There will be no men's lacrosse in the month of May for Syracuse, save for 2020 when nobody was playing sports at the time. No men's lacrosse in the month of May for the first time since 1976. It has been a minute. I think 1976 as we bring on Kyle Fetterly. That's even before Kyle Fetterly's first freshman year. So it's been a very long time, Kyle, that we haven't got to talk lacrosse in the month of May. I don't know. What are we supposed to do with ourselves? This is wild.
Get behind the gals. That's all.
Yeah,
the funny thing is, Brian, I had one of the students in here that works for me sit there and say, Kyle, do you know how the Yankees do? And I said, you're doing? And I said, let me tell you something. I said, I pay attention to opening day and then June 1st after Memorial Day because I'm engulfed in lacrosse until then. So I have no idea how they're doing.
Yeah, for many, many years, obviously, it was we've told the story many times of booking the hotel at the Final Four on your way out the door the year before. And that's just not the case anymore with the men right now, and it hasn't been for a long time. But we'll get into the women in a second. What did you make of the men's season this year, Kyle? Because obviously last year was just a mess. This year, steps were taken, but still not in the playoffs. Where do you think, Gary Gate is on wherever it is on the map of getting back to where he wants to go?
I think right on schedule, honestly. I think it was a successful season, Brian. We went above 500, and after going 4-10 the year before, which was devastating. And given the fact that you're trying to rebuild a program in the ACC is not an easy task to begin with already, especially when the top three teams, who have been the top three teams all year long, they just flip places as each of them beat each other right there. Those are the three best teams in college lacrosse, without question. So it's been a really good year, I think. And what you saw was this year, a lot of we're playing 18-year-olds against 22 and 23-year-olds, and experience counts. Believe me, at this level, especially at the real upper level in the ACC. And I always say the best lacrosse league on the planet. But the bottom line is it's been a very successful year. The guys got confidence. We watched them, Brian, literally grow during the course of the year. They got better. They got better. They got better. It was a little bit here, a little bit there. They were smarter with the ball, things like that. And, our biggest problem was lack of having possessions of the ball. Now, a lot of that was face-offs, turnovers, obviously, as young teams are going to do. Okay, and the thing is I think the last check I had, we were leading the nation in offensive efficiency. The national average for scoring goals is 34% with possession. Okay, we were clipping in at 52%, which is unheard of. So the team will score goals when they get the ball, and obviously that's something I know the coaches are recruiting and getting ready for next year to have a few more possessions.
Yeah, you look at that, face-offs, not that they were ever great this year. They got a little better as the year goes on. Is that the main area, Kyle? We look at either recruiting or transfer portal that Gary's got to go take care of this offseason. If you go get a face-off guy or two, I'm not saying it solves every problem, but it puts you certainly in a much better position for the rest of the math, I guess, to work out in your favor.
It does. Possession is all the law in this game, Brian, without question. You got to have the rock, and especially when you got an offense, a dynamic offense like ours, you got to have the ball. And as we saw in the Duke game, down 6 goals going into the fourth quarter, we actually cut it to 2. And why? Because Johnny Rachusa won 7 out of 8 faceoffs. That's why. So we got back into the game because of that, and then we had a couple of real costly turnovers in the last 5 minutes. So we could have cut into the lead a little bit more. But that, with a young team, that's part of the thing. So Gary is going to go out. Obviously, we got a couple face-off guys coming in. But right now, I think Gary, this is just an opinion from afar, he utilizes the transfer portal as a need, not as a want, okay? So, what are the things we're going to be looking at this year? Obviously, close defense, obviously short stick middies, which are always in high demand, short stick defensive middies. Because that's what most teams like to do. they like to attack the short stick middies when they have the ball. So we got to look at that, and we got to look at faceoffs too. But I think offensively, we're pretty well set.
How do you feel? Obviously, the defense has given up some wild numbers the last 2 years, and all of what we're talking about goes into it. But, with Billy Dwan getting in there down the stretch as a freshman with presumably, they gave this guy number 11, which we know on Syracuse defense means a lot. Riley Figueres getting in there next year, even though he missed all this year, hurt. Does it feel like the talent is going to be there at that end of the field next year?
Yeah, it is, because we got 2 5-star defensemen coming in next year. So bottom line is the defense will improve without question. But you know what? It's still the same type of thing, Brian. You've got freshmen going out there. And, I remember Coach McPherson, that's how long I've been here, Coach McPherson used to say freshmen are coach killers. There's still young guys out there. We saw that early in the year with the freshmen on offense, with all the turnovers and everything. But that, again, steadily improved as we went along. So the pieces that we need are being addressed, and I'm sure Gary and Dave Petronella and Pat March are going to go out there and even address more. Obviously, you'd like to have an older guy, an experienced guy that's been in the battles, so to speak, and they can help you right away and bring the younger kids along. I can't tell you how much Cole Kirst meant to this team this year on attack, number 40. He was kind of the calming influence out there, because young guys, especially when they're as talented as those young guys were, when they get the ball, they want to go, go, go. I saw against Princeton every time that we cleared the ball across midfield in the fourth quarter, they got it to Cole Kirst, and he slowed it right down. We got a 3-goal lead. Let's hang on to the ball. Let's work for a good shot. A calming influence out there with all those young studs. Yeah,
you look at Kirst and what Alex Simmons certainly did with those two guys that came in for their 5th years. It was huge. And then, this is crazy, Kyle, because he came in with such hype. And with good reason. Joey Spallina was the number 1 recruit in the country. This guy scored 68 points. It's the 3rd most by an Orange freshman ever, behind some guys named Mike Powell and John Zilberti. So those are 2 guys, pretty good guys to be on a list with. And it feels like anything. And, it's team success. It's not being in the playoffs. It's the whole thing. It's weird. It feels like Spallina's season almost went a little bit under the radar, considering how much we've been talking about him for the last 2 years.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely correct, Brian. Under the radar for sure, but I think a lot of that is because of, as opposed to 20 years ago, the talent level at the attack position has gone through the roof, and teams are scoring more goals, and there's more guys to look at out there. Xander Dixon at Virginia, and Brendan O'Neill and Dyson Williams at Duke, and and on and on and on, and of course the Kavanaugh boys out at Notre Dame, and it's just there's just a plethora of real good attackmen. And Spallina, to me, is an All-American without question. But again, there's just a lot of good guys out there, and it's kind of a tough world to crack into right now.
Yeah, you look at what he did, and obviously it was spectacular. What Finn Thompson did, another freshman, he had mid-30s in points, which I'd say, in a normal circumstance would be pretty good as a freshman. What Michael Leo did coming on late in the year, you look at the fact that Owen Hiltz, technically this was just his sophomore year, so he's got a couple of years left. How confident are you now? We talk about the offense and efficiency of where that group can be next year.
Oh, very confident. This is going to be. I think we're going to be way up in the rankings when the initial rankings come out because of the guys you just mentioned, not to mention Jackson Burtwistle's going to be out there and Luke Roa. I said these are guys that can score goals. They can assist. They're kind of a do-it-all type players on the offensive end of the field without question. And I'm looking forward to it, quite honestly, see what else is going to come in with them. Some guys may move around in positions. We'll see how that goes. That all weeds itself out. But Spallina had a hell of a season. When you're looking at 36 goals and 32 assists, he's not out there just gunning it. He's out there helping, throwing helpers out there to everybody. What a great season, especially for a rookie like that. And I'll tell you another guy that's not on the offensive end, it's on the defensive end, that I thought had an All-American season was Sam Alexo.
Yeah.
Our long stick pole, number 48. But we asked him to play on the close defense, up on the wing on poles. He shut out Connor Schnellenberg. and he's one of the top attackmen in this country, and he shut him completely out. So, I mean, Sam is one hell of a defensive player, and he was asked to play a lot of positions for us this year. So, unselfish. That's what all these guys are. I guess that's what it comes down to. Unselfish. What does the team need? That's what we're going to do.
All right, Kyle Fetterly with us. Let's do one more men's lacrosse thought, Kyle, before we get to the women and getting ready for their postseason experience, which will start next week. Who do you think's winning it all this year? I mean, you're talking the ACC and Notre Dame and Virginia and Duke in some combination have been atop the polls pretty much all season. Is the champion in that group of three? What's your sense here coming up?
Oh, it is in the group of three. But for me to sit here and make a prediction is to be incredible because it will come down to two things. It'll come down to face-offs and goalie play. That's what it'll come down to. All three have good face. I think the kid from Duke, Jake Naso, is the best face-off man in the country. Okay? The kid from Virginia, Petey LaSalle, he's pretty good too. I think Notre Dame is below average in that regard, but they make up for it with that great defense and that great goaltender and Liam Enneman. So, I mean, it could, whoever gets the hot goalie and who can ever control the ball, that'll be the team that wins. Right now, I've been impressed with Duke, but that doesn't mean that Virginia can't win and Notre Dame can't win. But if I had to make an odds-on favorite, I'm going to go with the coach, John Danowski. And I'll tell you why. He's won 454 games. That's just staggering. But look what he did this past Saturday. Duke scores 3 goals. We score 3 goals. Duke then scores the next 3 at 6-3. We score 3 right away. And it's 6-6. And Danowski yanks a timeout early in the first half and switches goalies. He switches to a kid, Bonafide, who has not played since the first week of March. Okay? And he comes out and has 7 saves. And I gave him our player of the game because of that. But you talk about a gutsy move by John Danowski. The man is a great coach. He's all class, and we saw the class when right at the end they scored the goal to go up 3 on us with about 32 seconds to go, and Charlie Balsamo looked over at our bench and gave the finger across the throat sign, which immediately drew a flag from the official. And I'm telling you, Danowski was on a trot down to the penalty box, and he got there and he berated that kid for about a minute on the sideline because John doesn't go for that type of stuff. You know, he doesn't mind celebration, but that type of stuff he doesn't, and that's a young freshman, over-exuberance. I get that. But it reminded me, and you and I did this game, the 2013 National Championship when Duke beat Syracuse for the title. The hats and the shirts were all out there, and they were putting them on, and Danowski yelled to his team, take them off. You go shake their hand first, and then you celebrate. And that's the type of guy John Danowski is.
Well, one of these days, Kyle, Syracuse is going to get the ball in that game again. I don't know when it is, but sometime soon, I think the Orange will get the ball in that 2013 National Championship game.
I know it.
Oh, man. But, hey, Danowski's a great coach. He's got 3 titles. You look at Lars Tiffany at Virginia. He's got 2. Kevin Corrigan at Notre Dame still looking for his first. Virginia can't beat Duke. Duke can't beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame can't beat Virginia. It's going to be funny to see how it all lines up in the playoffs. But
you know what? It's going to come down, Brian, to the matchups, the seed, all that stuff.
Yeah, the selection committee, I don't know how they're going to untie that pretzel because you could order those 3 teams any way you want and argue it, and you can't argue against it because they all beat each other in some weird way. Some of them can't beat the other. I don't know. God bless the selection committee trying to figure it out this year. And it's really important because you'll either have to play one of those teams to win the title or 2 of them. And
or both of them.
Yeah, and if you got to play 2 of them, it's going to be a lot harder. All right, Kyle, with the women, how concerned do we need to be? Should we be concerned right now? 15-0, cruising, up 6 on BC a week and a half ago. Then all of a sudden, now you've lost 2 of 3, albeit to BC at North Carolina, which is in theory not the end of the world. But how concerned, if at all, should we be going into the women's tournament?
Well, I think you just have to have a little bit more purpose against them. I kind of suspected that we were going to be in the deep end of the pool against North Carolina down there, and only because we beat them at their place about 3 weeks ago on Senior Day, and we broke a 6-year home game winning streak. So you got to imagine that North Carolina, who's got a great team, along with BC, along with Syracuse, you got to believe that North Carolina was really motivated going into that game. So I'm not too awful concerned. I think with the girls got 4 days off here to just kind of decompress from the season, from the ACC tournament. I think they'll get their minds right, and I'm expecting to make a deep run.
Yeah, we'll see. Selection show is coming up on Sunday. We'll see how it goes. Like, hey, BC just beat Carolina. They scored the last 5 goals to kind of pull the ACC championship game out of the fire. Carolina's in the mix. Northwestern's number 1 in the country. Like, this is going to be a crazy women's tournament, right, Kyle? It feels like any one of those 4 teams can win it, and who knows if anybody else is prepared to join the mix this year.
Well, I think you're right, Brian. I mean, the best lacrosse league on the planet is for men and women is the ACC. But here's the thing that's kind of the misnomer on all this. Nobody knows a lot about Denver or James Madison. Denver is 17-0. James Madison is 16-1, and they're right behind those 4 that you just mentioned: Northwestern, Boston College, North Carolina, and Syracuse. And then it's Denver and James Madison. So we don't know a whole heck of a lot about it. I'm sure the coaches know. Kyle doesn't know, but the coaches know a lot about those 2 teams. But it's going to be a wild ride right now. But I still like, it's going to either be the ACC or Northwestern to win the title in that. And I like our chances.
It feels like that. And out of those schools in Maryland, the last school not named those schools to win the title is James Madison. It's a few years back, but they did beat BC in the national championship game a few years ago. So we'll be watching. Selection show is Monday. The Orange for sure will be hosting playoff games, not this weekend, but next weekend. So do stay tuned for dates and times of all that good stuff. All right, Kyle, enjoy the women's run here in May. I'm sure we'll touch base toward the end of it to see how it goes for them. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks for having me, Brian. Good dog. Always good to talk to you.
That is Kyle Fetterly. Always fun to talk lax with Kyle. We'll take a break. Maybe come back with a little gambling recap. How did our picks do this weekend? Hint, not good. They did not do good. Not good at all. We'll tell you about that when we come back. It's QSportsTalk.com, ESPN Radio.